Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. Today, we have a very special episode where we're going to be diving deep into Angela's incredible journey on moving from the United States to abroad, which was China during the pandemic. So we want to thank you, Angela, for sharing this story today. You had mentioned that you had landed a job which allowed you to move abroad to China in 2020. What inspired you to look for a job abroad, specifically in China, rather than staying within the United States and moving from state to state?
Yeah, so I think I did mention a little bit about this in one of our previous episodes when I was very young. This would be probably when I was 5 or 6, and growing up, I would watch Hong Kong television, and I've always thought I wanted to move to Hong Kong to work over there and experience that lifestyle. I see it on television, so I want to experience that myself. And fast forward to 2020, when the whole COVID event happened, is when I just wanted to do something different. And I've actually applied and tried to work over in Taiwan actually when I finished college, and that didn't happen because I didn't land any job there. And once you start working, there is a requirement where you have to have 2 years experience before you go abroad. And right when it was 2020, I had about a little over a year of work experience. And so I just thought that maybe I should just give it a try. And during COVID also was when, everyone was just like, I want to do something different. Like, you have this whole thing that was happening to you, right? Everyone was just staying home. So I just wanted to break out of that and experience something that's very new.
So you said that you didn't have any specific goal in mind because you were like 23 and the only goal was to get a job that paid probably very similarly. Did you then, prior to finding your job, or like even after finding the job that like allowed you to move abroad, did you prepare in any way before moving? Like, did you have any specific plans or like expectations about working and living there? Like, how did you prepare the move?
To prepare for the move, definitely finding a job first. I know for sure I need to aim for a position before I do anything or even think about any of all that. And I put in my resume online to a China job search website. There's quite a bit. I think one was called 51 jobs or something like that. There was quite a few of the job website. We can probably put it in the link below in the description below for all the different links that I put in my resume onto. And I remember applying for TikTok, some of the gaming companies, and we had like similar like what we're doing right now, where there was like a virtual interview type of thing. So a lot of that. And after searching for jobs, I was able to land. It took me, I would say, 4 to 5 months before I landed a position. Like, I had to actually purchase a service with it's like a career coaching company where I purchased a package. They helped me put in my resume to find jobs. They helped me change my whole resume to a Chinese resume and prepare that. And they also have like a coaching type of service where they teach you how to have this interview with Chinese companies. But honestly, it's really similar to how we do our interviews in the United States. So there's nothing different other than just this Chinese and English. So yeah. And I think one thing that I was really lucky about is that I got hired and my company really took care of me. I was hired in a medium-sized private company, and my manager was part of the owners, right? Technically owner of the company. Like, she helped me with a lot of stuff, going from looking for jobs, like going into China. I honestly was not able to use my credit card for some of the services. She even lent me, like, there was like a option on WeChat where there was like a family credit card sharing system, and she even shared her credit card with me, and then she just take off the money back from my paycheck, and it's just like all of that. So I was taking really good. I was taken care of really well. Yeah.
And was all of this done in Chinese, or you did like your interview and everything in English?
No, the whole everything that you're interviewing has to be in Chinese. Like, you might stumble upon like some vocabularies that you're gonna say in English, and that's fine. But mainly, they need to make sure that you understand Mandarin really well. I took it's like a certification test where there's like different levels. Goes from level 1 to level 6. Level 1 is like very basic of knowing how to read, write, and talk or listen in Mandarin, and then level 6 is like you can actually read a newspaper type of standard. And so I took that to prove that I actually understand Mandarin, how to read, write, and talk. So
wow, that's great. That's something I could never do. I probably would not be able to move abroad, honestly, like conducting an interview or like even being the interviewee all in Cantonese or Chinese. Like, that's really impressive. So can you talk to us about how that transition, like why did you have to first move to Beijing and then Shanghai? Or is it the other way around? Shanghai and
other way around. It was I have to fly into Shanghai and then go
Beijing. Yeah. So like, can you talk to us about that and what made you decide to move abroad during such a critical moment? Because at that time it was the height of the pandemic. Like, COVID had just broken out. Everyone was quarantining, especially at least from the United States perspective. It was really bad in China since it did originate from like Wuhan and everything. So I'm sure like the government took it extremely seriously. How did you get around even leaving the United States, going into China? And then also, why did you decide to do it during such a critical moment?
I honestly did not think too much about that. I just know myself that if I don't do it at that moment, I'm gonna delay it. And so, yeah.
Describe the time, like why you had to first fly into Shanghai and then quarantine there, and like how that whole process was as well.
So during the COVID era, a lot of flights was not flying into China. There was quite a time where it's like a very limited amount of flights where it's flying in, and so that resulted in also like China was also trying to keep as much foreigners out as possible. And if there is foreigners coming into China, that they need to make sure that there are specific stops, specific destinations that is created so that they contain it at a certain area before, going into other areas of China. And Shanghai was one of it. And I flew in. I still remember we flew in. We had to go through a long it was a certain path that you have to follow also. That you can't go to like any area. They specifically made a lane for everyone that is exiting the airplane to follow, and then you go to different stations to have your COVID test, right? They put those swabs up your nose and stuff, and to keep that documentation. And then after you do that, then you walk to a specific area in the airport for the shuttles. And there is shuttles that take you straight from the airport all the way to a hotel, and then you would be quarantined there for like, I did 14 days of quarantine, like actually not being able to come out of your room. And I still remember when I arrived at the hotel, everyone was wearing those full suits of like, those white like doctor suits, like
yeah.
They had like the gloves on, their feet was like covered, their shoes was covered with like the white booties, and then like they have the goggles and like the mask, so they're like fully protected from any germs. And yeah, we had to do like our paperwork over in the hotel, and they assigned us specific hotel rooms, and then we go straight up to our hotel room. And that was the start of my quarantine. And one thing about the quarantining is that they provide you food for every day for 3 meals, and they have specific timing of when they're going to put the food out on in front of your door. And once they put it out your door, they would announce it on the telephone that's in your room. Like there's like a speaker system, right? They announce it and they're telling you, hey, your food is outside, go ahead and grab it. And they pick up like trash once a day, like at a specific time also. Yeah. But
Wow.
you cannot go outside of your door too long. Like if you open your door for more than, I think, either 30 seconds or a minute, the alarm will start ringing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you do like workouts and stuff inside like your room, or how did you stay active?
Yeah, I didn't stay active, honestly, but a lot of people was having like pretty bad time quarantining, because then like you're literally in a room for 14 days, not being able to go out. You have your bed space or two, right? And then you have your bathroom, and that's really it. So a lot of people was like, they couldn't take it. And then I got very fortunate because I have work also. So from like 9 to 5, I was working. I also have like nighttime meetings also. So I was literally on the go for work. So it kept my brain like continuously working for like 2 weeks, for 10 days out of the 14 days. So I got very lucky. Yeah.
Got it. So let's talk about after quarantining, you moving to Beijing. And you did mention in a previous podcast that you signed a lease for a year, but then you ended up staying 3 months. What was it about those 3 months did you decide? Because obviously there was definitely a cultural difference for you to feel like this isn't the place for me. Like, I don't think I can stay this full year. I need to move back home. What were some of the most notable cultural differences that you encountered while working and living there versus the United States?
The big culture difference is, that's very hard. It's just something that is not really me, I would say. It's a very city life. A lot of walking, subway, which is totally just not me. Like knowing that you are from New York, I think that like if someone is more of like the fast-paced, they like the subway lifestyle, just riding the muni, they might not be as culture shocked in Beijing, because like that's really the lifestyle in Beijing. Like it's very, very fast-paced. The subway would always be like people pushing each other when it comes to like going like work hours or like off work hours. So it's like all that, and it's just totally not me. I literally have to Uber they don't call it Uber over there, but I have to DD. Their app is called DD, and I have to continuously call a car every day to go to work. So yeah.
Wow. Like you didn't even try to take the subway, or?
No, I'm not a subway person. I would take a subway when it comes to the weekend, when I go like out to explore. But other than that, during the weekdays, yeah, I don't take the subway, just to avoid any issues. Like I mean, yeah, it's quite tight on the bus.
Look, so now that you knew that you wanted to cut your 3 months short, do you feel still the same way about China? Like, do you still feel like it's a good city to be in? Like, because you obviously don't feel like it's home. Like, but do you think it's a good place to visit? Like, do you still have fond memories and good thoughts about the city life and like just China in general?
Oh, definitely. I just went back last November to visit Shanghai, and I wanted to go visit Beijing. It's just not a lifestyle in a city that I would want to live in, but it would be a very fun location to visit for vacation wise. Beijing and Shanghai is very welcoming to foreigners. They love connecting with foreigners, like all the residents, right? And they really take care of foreigners, especially if you're foreigner and you're Chinese. Like they love it, especially if you're a foreigner and can't speak Chinese. No matter if you're Chinese or not, they are very amazed if someone can speak like Chinese. So like I would totally highly recommend going to Beijing and Shanghai and experiencing that. Like honestly, Beijing is an amazing place to go. Like you have the very ancient stuff, the Forbidden Palace where the emperor and the empress used to live, and then like you have more like over at the Forbidden City you would see trees that are from like hundreds of years ago, and then you have your area where it's more of a foreigners called Chaoyang, and there's a lot of like the entertainment industry people that live over there, like your singers, your actors, they all live over there. And then you go over to the more upper northwest side of Beijing is where you would see all the tech companies. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, their HQ is over there. You will see the Olympics, the bird's nest over there. So there's like a lot of different things to do over in Beijing that is really worth a foreigner to go over there and experience like the different artifacts. You can experience so many different things when you're in Beijing. And then like in Shanghai, I love Shanghai, honestly. It's so like it gives us a very like elegant, exquisite type of feeling, but at the same time it's low cost, right, because of the exchange rate. And there's so much to do in Shanghai also, because Shanghai is more like a fashion, entertainment, Western type of community. So like there's so much going on there also. Highly recommend it. And the view over in both in Beijing and Shanghai is amazing. Like the bund is very pretty and very elegant. There's so many of those like sky bars over in Shanghai, and you'll see like all the different lights in the bund. So yeah, amazing. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I heard just like from my parents and like my friends and stuff that like Shanghai was one of the first city in China to become more westernized. It's like where all the Americans like had gone to like in the 1800s even.
Honestly, Shanghai is really a city that's on the go also. There's so much happening. Honestly, a lot of like the big cities, the tier 1 city, really like an on the go type of city. So much happening at the same time. Nowadays, like I feel like the technology over there is developing even faster than what's developing here in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was just trying to emphasize that like people always talk like about how the United States is always better, right? Like that's like what we're like ingrained to know. You know, our politics, our technology, like Silicon Valley, we're so like number one, and we're always like innovating, and it's just like the place to be. But after talking to you and saying your experience with your friend who like just loves living there, I think there is like such a stark difference. And in terms of you saying quality of life, I think that's different for everyone. And I think people who do like living in the city, if you compare like me having lived in New York City for 3 years, right, having to take the subway and like go through all of that like infrastructure, and like it's just so outdated compared to other cities abroad. In the United States, like New York is supposed to be like that number 1 city in the world, like that's where you're supposed to be, and everything's supposed to be quote unquote modernized. But having traveled abroad, having been to China, having been to Japan, like all these tier 1 first world countries with modern cities, they're just such on a different tier compared to the United States. And this is coming from an American. And even the subway system, all of the infrastructure is so much more modernized. There's cameras everywhere for people's safety, right? Yeah. People are like, oh my gosh, there's cameras everywhere, because they're trying to like watch every citizen, make sure they're like not doing anything wrong. And if they are doing something wrong, they're going to be gone and you won't even know where they are, right? Like that's so far from the truth. It's truly for people's safety. It's to protect everyone. Like it's actually for is it for the privacy? It's just
for residents. Yeah.
It's like it's for the benefit of their society, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my uncle was telling me, like my uncle is in Macau, but he was telling me that if you see like a $10 bill on the sidewalk, you better not take it. If you're gonna take it, you better bring it to the police station because there's cameras and they can find out that you're the one that took it. And it's honestly like all that comes down to like, okay, like just being very, what's that word? In very honest, being just making sure that you don't take others' belonging, no stealing, because then like at the end of the day, like they're gonna find out about that on from the cameras, right? Like, yeah, it's like I guess that's also one thing why a lot of people is not afraid to walk in these China cities during like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning just by themselves with like no issue because there is cameras that is like filming everything. So yeah, and they will, and cops will catch you.
Yeah. I mean, to be a woman, I think I would feel safer and I would never dare to walk like 4 a.m. and well, it depends on like parts of like New York City I would walk in. Like 4 a.m., you know, you're partying with your friends. Like if you're with your friends, that's fine. Yeah, but even then it's still like even midday I have been like attacked by like some homeless person, you know? And so like, yeah, I've been like pushed and shoved like middle of the day, like 2 p.m. in the afternoon. But regardless, I think, especially if you're by yourself, I would feel so scared just to like walk, you know, like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. by myself in the city because there's like homeless people everywhere. There's like, it's just so unsafe. There's like, you hear news about people getting stabbed or pushed onto the subway tracks like all the time, right? And so it's just such a stark difference, and for sure.
And like the subway stations over in America is not monitored, but the subway station over in China is monitored so closely. Like it's literally like going to an airplane where you have to put all your purse on a clearance machine so that they make sure that there's no weapons or anything in your purse. And then like I think there was no food also in the subway.
Wow.
But, like,
and then they also have the doors that like you can't even push people onto the tracks. Like if there were like psychotic people who were trying to like end people's lives and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very safe in the subway stations also because I think at the end of the day, like they need to make sure that because you're like it's in the subway, right? Like if something happens, it's very hard to like help anyone out when you're underground. So yeah, they have like to go through like a security clearance also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting, right? And Subway is very clean compared to like like Subway over in New York. Like it's, I thought, I mean, growing up from San Francisco, I thought that San Francisco subway station is bad, but then if you go to New York, it's a bigger city that it's really like a whole nother level of like bad. But going to Beijing and Shanghai, which they have even more people compared to New York, that like their subways is actually very clean compared to what New York has. So very interesting.
For sure. And there's definitely a big difference in culture as well. Like where, I don't know, I've been on the subway in Japan, Hong Kong, China, and like there's this etiquette where you're not allowed to talk on phones. Like it's just very quiet and very respectful. Like you can't like take pictures or anything, right? Like you're not allowed to take photos. I think even in Singapore, my mom had like, because she's a tourist, she like had taken out her phone. She didn't know she's not allowed to take pictures. So she took a photo, and then the minute she got off the train, like the conductor, one of the people who like worked within the subway systems, like followed her and was like, "Excuse me, you can't." Yeah, she was like, he was like, "Excuse me, you can't be taking photos here. You have to delete whatever you took." And she was like, "You need to take your phone out and show me that you deleted it." So she had to show him like physically that she like was deleting the photos like in front of him too.
Oh my goodness! Now
that was Singapore. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So, but like regardless of everything we're saying right now, you still feel like United States is your home, regardless.
I think just something about the things that you built in an area, the connections that you have, is everything that you built here is what calls it home. all the experiences that you have here. I just mentioned connections, resources. It's just
I think it's how you're brought up, right? And I think at the end of the day, like even though you didn't fully experience your time, like the 3 months, you know, it was like cut down from a year to 3 months. I think part of it is because you didn't grow up with friends there, so you don't have friends there, and like you're quarantining and all of it. I think if we were brought up like in a city and our friends and family are all there, like I think it would not even be a question. Like I think we'd probably want to live there, but at the same time I think there's pros and cons, because you also did note that like, you know, schooling competition is so much tougher in China given there's like so many people. So I think in terms of that, there's definitely still a big advantage in terms of opportunity in the United States, progressing in terms of education and career here. So I think it's definitely pros and cons for sure.
Yeah. I also had that conversation with my friend in Shanghai, and he was saying that both me and his wife is also in Shanghai, and that I would actually have some connections, and he would be able to introduce me to like his group of friends too, right? And on top of that, he was like, you would probably might have stayed a bit longer compared to Beijing, because on top of just having connections is also where Shanghai is a bit more Western compared to Beijing, where Beijing is really, it's more Chinese compared to like Shanghai. And yeah, but at the end of the day, I might have stayed longer. I might have stayed half a year, but overall, I think that I would have still came back to US early, given that it's just so different, having to speak Chinese every single day. And at one point I just thought that I was losing both my English and my Cantonese, so I was speaking Mandarin every single day. So yeah, there was a feeling that I was like, oh, am I losing my languages, even though like I have spoken those languages for like, you know, most of my life.
So looking back now that you have done the move and the move back, is there anything you wish you would have known before making it?
I don't know if I'm the best example to use. I still like expecting the unknown. I don't want to like know a whole country before moving there, because then like knowing everything, I might have like just backed off and not moved there. I don't think I'm going to be the best example, but if I were to give tips to someone that is moving there, just make sure that you probably checked out what the market is like, how like, you know, the cost of things, the living cost of things, doing your homework of where is the best place to live, how people's lifestyle is over in the area you want to move at, and maybe even taking a flight over there like for a week and try, or even a month first, to try to experience how it's really like living over there before you actually like move over there.
Yeah. I think personally, if you were to move to a whole other country, let alone a whole other city, you should do a few visits, not only one, like just really know that you want to go there. And like it's just like kind of like deciding like, do you want to go to this college? Do you want to like work at this job? Like you should really know, and like before you make a decision, because it is your whole life, and like you're moving your entire life there, right? And so I think it's like really important to scope out where you want to be at. Otherwise, I have heard a lot of horror stories too, where like, you know, people have picked colleges and places, like just places in general to move to, having never even been there, and then like facing a complete culture shock, not even knowing what to do. They're like, well, shoot, I'm already here. And like, I think there's like, you were lucky to have found another job to like be able to move back so fast, but like there could be other instances where like, you know, people don't, and they're just stuck there with like no other plan. Or even like, you know, I think you were really lucky in this whole process.
Honestly, I truly disagree that someone would have to be stuck there with no other plan. I highly recommend everyone to always have like a backup plan just in case, because like don't always put, what's that one phrase, don't always put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like always have like your backup plans and make sure that like if this plan doesn't go through, that you can have alternatives of what to choose. So
plan it out is what I'm trying to say. Like you should plan it out.
Yeah.
And like scope things out, have your backup plans, and not always go with the flow. Unless that's just how you like living your life, and you just like go with flow, and like everything will be okay eventually, you know? But I think to save yourself a headache, save yourself time, and, you know, be emotionally stable, maybe plan things out more, especially if you're thinking about moving abroad.
I would, well, this really is determined by people. I honestly, if I were to do something right now, I really like the feeling of like going into something mysterious, and like I know a bit of it, but not knowing fully everything of it, and just like expecting the unknown. And honestly, like if I might have not experienced what I've experienced if I were to plan things out, right? So it really depends on people, but overall, you should have still a base knowledge of what you want to do and like alternatives, definitely.
Yeah. And I also just want to note that I personally think that Angela was really lucky in her entire moving abroad process, where she found a job where they did help her a lot in finding and like securing a place and, you know, doing all of that. And then also like during the height of all COVID, that she was able to find another job like so quickly and leave China while all of this like COVID stuff was happening. It was definitely a really good blessing. But I think like for other people, maybe given this market, a job is harder to find, right? Versus 2020, 2021, it was like so easy. Like anywhere you looked, people were like, yeah, we'll hire you. But like in different times brings different, you know, challenges and obstacles. And we just want to further reiterate that you should plan things out and have a backup plan, because things might not always go as planned.
And I think the one important thing is that you really survive from money, right? So make sure you have like, you know, how to make a living from that, and you secured your financial side of like moving somewhere or something like that. So yeah, if you know you have the money and backed up for like a whole year, then yeah, go ahead and do it and move to somewhere new without financially securing something, right? But if you think that if you're a person that's more like me, where I need to make sure that financially there is something that's recurring and that I know I'm going to be getting money, then you definitely have to secure something and secure a job that you know that will be paying good money before you go somewhere new. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was all the questions I had for you today. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing your story with us. It's been so fascinating. Yeah, it's been so fascinating to hear and talk about different cultures abroad outside of the United States, because that's all we're exposed to. I've never moved abroad myself. And I think this is very valuable information for other people who do plan or have always dreamed about going abroad and studying abroad, whether it be studying abroad, whether it be like working, or just, you know, living their travel visa for like 3 months at a time. I think all of this is very insightful. If you want to learn anything else, if you have any other questions, don't be afraid to reach out to Angela, because I'm sure she has a lot of other additional details and information that she can share for any questions you may have. And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our next episode.
Yep. I just want to add one more thing in there, is that everyone's own story is written by how you want your stories to be, right? How you want your life to be. So if you want to do something, go for it, and just make sure that there's no regrets in there. And if there's none, like, you know, at the end of the day, if someone comes to you about how you are as a person, what's your experiences, you still have your stories to tell them. So yeah.
So insightful. So wise.
Alrighty, see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.